Hello everyone, my name is Alicia Jackson, licensed professional counselor, and welcome to my channel. Today we are reviewing Married at First Sight, Season 17, Episode 22. Will this season ever end? Here at this channel, we do a different type of therapeutic review. We do a different type of therapeutic review where we get a little curious. We try to set aside any assumptions or criticisms, anything that we feel like, oh, we know for sure, and really sit and wonder, like, what's happening that these people are showing up in this way? Like, what's going on internally for them? Want to learn a little bit about relationships and potentially a little bit about ourselves. If you are returning, welcome back. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now let's get started. First, we have Lauren and Orion. Yes, we're going to get them out of the way. First, we have Lauren and Orion. And Lauren told Orion, because she was meeting up with a friend, that she didn't want to continue on with their relationship. She said that Orion was setting up that date or the friendship, and at the same time, there's a part of her that was like really feeling complete, really feeling like we don't have to be buddy-buddy, chum-chum, and also don't have to be enemies, but we can part ways. And if there's anything else, I have space for it, but not, yeah, I'm okay. And so Orion said that he was feeling a bit of rejection from Lauren as she sent this via text message. And Orion said that he has a part of him that really wants to make things right with Lauren. And I want to know more about that. Like, I want to know what this part of him that wants to make things right, what will that do for Orion? Will that help to resolve the guilt he's feeling? Will that make him feel like he's a good person because there's not someone who has decided to remove themselves from him because of something he did or actions or how he made them feel? Like, so will there be a box that's checked within Orion because he's made things right? So it sounds like there's an agenda, like a part of him has an agenda to connect with Lauren versus just to connect. Like, hey, I like being with you. I like the space that we have. And Orion said her text kind of caught him off guard, and he said he really wants to respond. And then how that lands for Lauren, who has this kind of talk about it, be about it because of her experience over Orion, like saying things but then doing another thing. She's seeing him saying, I really want to respond, and then no response, as like, well, do you really want to respond because you didn't respond? Versus what I'm hearing Orion say is that he really wants to respond, and he's trying to see and figure out like what he wants to say and how he wants to respond to it. And maybe that's something he needs to add to that text message. Like, I really want to respond, and I also need to take some time to sit with what you sent me, and I really want to also decide how I want to communicate, respond, whether I want to do this like via text, via person, and if you can give me a moment to do that, like to sit with all this. He didn't say that. He didn't say that directly. And so there's again another miscommunication happening between them, which of course isn't going to like help Lauren want to reach in and connect when she's already kind of made her decision. She's already made her decision. So he said that he's feeling like he thought things were going along well. And so he's holding some disappointment. And yeah, hoping he can make some time to sit with that disappointment, acknowledge it, really be with that disappointment. And Lauren says that she just feels like he's not ready to put in the work, which really just reinforces her experience of Orion. And I don't know if that's really where he is, because also Orion and Truth can sometimes not really be in the same space often. This is where Lauren's like the impact of her experience, like her full experience of Orion. That's what like the conclusion she's coming up to with how this communication has landed. Lauren's continued to talk to her friends, saying that she started to date she started to date a couple guys. And one thing that she noticed that she really appreciated was like feeling protected, feeling like they were very communicative, and also that there was consistency. And so we hear, right? We hear this part of Lauren that is looking and appreciating, like wanting them to be consistent and also appreciating the consistency because of the lack of consistency that she experienced in her relationship with Orion. And then she also joked with her friend that she was divorced at first sight, which is absolutely a part of me finds hilarious. And we see that it's just, again, Lauren's humorous part of her that's coming in to protect her from, right, the hurt that she's feeling. And at the same time, she did say later on in the episode with the girls that, it's been 2 months. It's been 2 months for her. She's in a really good place. She's owning all of her experience and moving on to do bigger and better things. And Orion is still, he's still trying to figure out, like a part of him is how to respond. And a part of me also maybe has a little tenderness towards Orion around that, because conflict is just not something that is his forte. Like, so him getting that text message from Lauren, what I'm sensing is like he himself is like almost in like a freeze mode, like or even like a flight mode, and now he's like, what do I do now? How do I take all this in, and how do I respond to this? He's still in that space of like trying to figure it out. And I'm wondering what it would be like for him to, instead of trying to figure it out, like there's a part of him that's doing that, like from a head space and sinking into his heart and leaning into that, to be like, oh, what do you want to say? Like, what do you want to say to her? Like, oh man, I'm disappointed. I'm a little confused because I thought things were going well, but maybe they're not. And, I'm really sorry. Like, who knows, right? What he was trying to say. Or a part of me thought, like, I could really make things right with you. And at the same time, maybe that's just not possible. And I need to take care of myself. Who knows? I don't know where he is in all of this. And what would happen, like, if he listened in to his heart and really hear what he wants to say. And then just say it from a vulnerable space. And at the same time, I fear and I sense that he has some fear around doing that. So he's like in a headspace trying to figure things out, which is going to create distance and may even come off as not genuine or inauthentic. And that seems to be like the cycle that Orion is in when it comes to conflict and communicating in conflict. But hopefully this could be a space where he gets some growth and continues to learn and grow through this. Next, we have Becca and Austin. And so Becca is feeling better. She's back in her space, and she says she's missing Austin. She's grieving him, and which makes sense. They were in a committed relationship. So Becca's talking with her mom because she's saying she's had some doubts. She's worried or concerned that she made the right decision, because she's like, he's a human, and humans make mistakes, and maybe she gave up too quick. And she's wondering, like, oh, are my expectations too high? Maybe I'm supposed to just be okay with how he showed up. And her mom came in and was like, trust is a really huge key component to a relationship. And you can tell her mom is like really wanting to slowly, like, not come in hot and say, of course you're right for making that decision, like from her seat. And at the same time, it's like she wants to validate Becca's experience of Austin, and at the same time to not fully like take over Becca's decision making. Like, she wants Becca to be in charge of how she chooses to handle this situation, and at the same time like offer what she's seeing. Becca stating that she feels like Austin did the best that he could do. He did the best that he can do, and it makes her feels like her standards are too high, and she like to want somebody to be emotionally intelligent and honest, which I'm like, oh my goodness, that's kind of like a part of me has some grief, some sadness, because those two things are not, in my seat, from my view, are not high expectations. Someone to be honest and have emotional intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence takes work sometimes, because depending on what you've experienced in life, you may not have like the full awareness of how you're feeling and all of that. So that takes a journey. And if you haven't been on that journey, that's a real thing. And at the same time, it also seems that like Austin isn't aware of where he is to even work on his emotional awareness or thereof, because he has these parts of him that he talked about that like shut things out and shut down, and so it's almost like he's still playing catch up. And so mom like reassures her and says that she's wanting her to have someone on her level. And Becca stated that she wants to let him go, and feels like he will like to someone else that will be better for him. And her mom like even acknowledged it, like, oh, that was a giving attitude. And Becca stated that she just wants him to be happy. And this kind of makes me think of someone else on the last video kind of commented about this more too. And I meant to make this make a point around this on a video, but I'll do it now. That I remember when I think it was last week or the week before, either in the last 2 episodes, Becca was talking to the fish and was like, maybe your next mom will be a Christian. And it feels like there's some hurt there around, like, maybe if I were different, Austin would have shown up in a better way. And so I'm wondering, like, even in this, like, I just want him to be happy. I just want him to have who he needs to have. And I'm like, oh, there's all this focus on Austin and what she wants for him. And I'm wondering if there's some attention that's being put on like what she wants and her real experience of Austin. She also stated that, if he really liked her or would have liked her as much as she liked him, then it would have been easier. And I was just like, like I'm hearing the sadness. I'm hearing even some rejection or dejectedness that Becca's holding through this relationship. Becca's mom stated that she is going to rejoice. She's really going to rejoice when Becca finds her person. And Becca said that she was hoping it was going to be Austin. And so I sense, and I said this last week and I'll say it again, that I feel that there's a lot of grief here about, like, there was some hope, like, ooh, this person really feels like this is going to last or this is going to work. Like, there's some hopes and expectations that are there around Austin that need to be acknowledged. They need to be acknowledged. They need to be grieved. They really need to be attended to in a way that's caring. And I'm hoping that Becca can attend to them in a way that shows up for her and doesn't try to externally get something because of that. Because she's in a space of doubting, because she's in a space of wondering and feeling rejected, like, there may be a part of her that's trying to, like, maybe change herself and be a different version of herself. Or there could be a part of her that's maybe wondering if she tries it again and maybe is a different version, right, like, of herself. And, there is this part of Becca that's just, like, over giving, right, to overcompensate. That medium shared that, and we've seen that, too, in her relationship with Austin. So what could it be like? What could it be like if she was different? Hoping that Becca's getting some time to grieve and be with those feelings. Becca did state, and she said this as she was connecting with her friends and with the other women, that she is still grieving and she wants Austin to have the woman for him. And the fact that he was dishonest in front of everybody. Dishonest in front of everybody is indeed something she can't ignore and she's not okay with. And also the fact that after this happened, that how he responded was still in the place of like, oh, let me explain, versus taking ownership of his responsibilities and his mistakes, because people do make mistakes. And at the same time, how did he respond in the moment? So that being said, we see where they are. Austin is still, it seems like he's still in a place of just like wondering, like, man, what happened? I really messed up. I don't know what to do. I'm hoping that he can get some clarity around that too, because I sense that he maybe isn't fully aware of how he was showing up in that marriage. Like, he's not all the way there, and he needs some clarity about what that experience was for him and what was really happening internally for him. So I'm hoping he can get some of that as well. Next, we have Cameron and Claire. And so we see Claire in her car, and she says it's Cameron's birthday, and she texts him. She texts him after the pizza party. He didn't respond, so she sent him a happy birthday text message, and he didn't respond. And she said, well, this really hurts because it makes her understand that their relationship is now over and it's come to an end. And she was hoping to receive an apology from Cameron, but nothing's happened. And so she's just trying to connect back with everything that she loves. She's getting it back in the gym. She's feeling more centered in the things. And so Cameron was at the after party, and he shared some more insight around this, saying that he had a second operation the day before his birthday. And so the fact that Claire responded in this way is telling for him, because I guess it's something she was aware of, and that they haven't been in communication, even though he had another operation. Like, that wasn't like the first thing on his mind. And also her video of this experience is very telling for him. And so then they also talked about Claire and her sister had a moment where they went walking, talking about future dating. And Claire saying, she isn't ready to date, and she's wanting to find someone who understands her emotions and their emotions. And I'm like, I hope that she starts to understand her emotions too and really spend time with them. One thing too that Cameron named on the after party is that because they were living in like two parallel universes almost, like what they knew on off camera and then what we knew on camera, that it was hard for them to determine where they were in their relationship. And which Cameron stated that Claire said all the time, and she did, like, I don't know where we are. Like, I don't know if we're on the same page. And that's oftentimes what it felt like as a viewer. I was like, what? Where? They are in two different relationships. They're who's on first? What's on second? Like, that's definitely how their relationship felt as a viewer. Also, too, Cameron finally responded to the birthday text message, and her sister was coming from a place of like reassuring and like trying to encourage her, like, get on out there. Many people are going to find you attractive. Go ahead and do that. I feel after a breakup that having someone in our lives that has these parts of them like reassuring and pumping us up to get back out there, are important, because they're wanting, right? They're wanting that. And at the same time too, I feel like it's helpful too. It's always helpful for someone to sit with what part they played in the relationship, what they could learn from the relationship. Because sometimes what can like indirectly be communicated is it was all Cameron's fault, and Claire, you have nothing to sit with, when in fact it sounds like maybe Claire has a lot to sit with. We haven't really had, and probably won't have it until the reunion, like a full huge conversation about the different types of or differences of realities and off camera versus on camera, and Claire's role in different relationships, and how definitely there was this part of her that was trying to control how she was seen and others were seen, and stepping in and interfering, and so it'll be interesting to hear both sides in the same room and how Claire will respond. Someone holding Claire accountable will be helpful. I feel like we need that. Like, we need someone to tell us the truth in a way that is not blaming, or that is not criticizing, in a way that is saying, hey, I'm wondering, like, how did you feel about how you showed up in this experience? And I'm hearing these things. I'm wondering how that's sitting with you, because yeah, it doesn't sound like this is what you want, for you to be like interfering in other people's relationships and all that. Like, I'm wondering, like, if this is how Claire really wants to show up. I don't think that it is. I really don't. I don't know Claire to say for sure, and at the same time, I don't get the sense I get the sense that Claire wants to be viewed as someone who is very intellectual, very smart, that it has it together, and is a very caring person. That's what I feel like Claire wants to present, and I feel like sometimes when we are working from our methods of protection, what can happen and what they're trying to avoid usually inevitably happens because we're coming from a space that's like fear-based response. So if I'm wanting to make sure I present a certain way and I'm like actively avoiding and like editing myself and curating myself and other people's relationships, then is that going to come off in a way that's really showing how I want to be shown? Not necessarily. So something for Claire to get curious about. And I'm hoping definitely the best for Cameron as he's continuing to recover from his operations. He said it should last for a few years or so. And so definitely hoping the best for him as well. Next, we have Emily and Brennan. And so Brennan and Orion are talking. He was stating that he needs to take his time before he gets back out there in the dating scene. And because of all this pressure, when Brennan says the word pressure, there's a part of me that's like, ooh, because he said it so much throughout the whole season that there's a part of me that's just like, you in pressure, Brennan. But I wonder what he means. I want to know more about the pressure. Like, of course, the pressure of being in this arranged marriage, the pressure of being videotaped, the pressure of having to do things, the production of it all. Like what exactly, or is there more? Is there even internal pressure that he was feeling too? But because of all the pressure of the situation and how he was saving Emily from feeling that all relationships would be this way. He said this was Emily's first relationship, and I didn't want her to feel that all relationships would be this way because there were certain things that were happening at the beginning of the relationship that he felt like were non-negotiables, that weren't going to change. Like, this was how Emily felt, and it wasn't anything that was going to change how she felt. And so there was nothing really to try to work towards. And at the same time, I feel like maybe one step that Brennan was missing in his pursuit, and really hearing him, his pursuit to try to save her, was just to be honest. Just to be honest about, hey, I'm hearing that we're at a stalemate, so I'm not going to continue this forward. And it feels like his way of doing that was like, let's be friends, but you're still married and going to marriage counseling, and so it was communication, honesty is something definitely that Brennan will have to work on. Emily is talking with her friend, and they're planning to go out of the country. It's for a business trip in Hawaii and I think somewhere else. I can't remember. And she was talking about her relationship and her feelings through this relationship and how Brennan called her negative, and this was like after the fact and she didn't know, and how it was just like it didn't make sense to her because she was positive through this horrible traumatic situation, this accident. So she's like, how could I be positive and be negative? And I hear Emily, and at the same time too, I feel like it's not as black and white as it's saying, because yes, she can be positive about her accident, and she does have this part of her, to the point where it's almost sometimes to her detriment, where there's part of her that's like, everything's great, we're moving through it, it's gonna be awesome. And it was almost like dismissing her hurt because it was like pushing through it, whether it was her hair or the injury, or how Brennan would talk to her off camera, how she felt in the relationship, this accident, right? There were times where Emily had this part of her that was being super positive to push through these really hard things, and at the same time I understand why, because they were painful. They were really painful. And she's like, how can I be doing these things and still be negative? And I'm wondering if Brennan opened up more. He said at the after party that he did mention to her at the beginning of their marriage some things that he was viewing that Emily was doing as negative. I don't know necessarily what he is speaking to. I know he used the example of Chloe and Michael's vows, and I'm hearing him. Definitely And I also sense like, and this is not to excuse how Emily showed up in talking about Chloe and Michael's vows. It's like when you're so positive, sometimes we have a part of you that's positive, and it's like almost restricting the parts of you that don't want to say the things, don't want to say, what you're upset about or what you're angry about, all those things. It can come out in a way that's like almost like kind of like a jab, or like a passive aggressive kind of situation where it's like, where did that come from? That I wonder if that's how Emily was showing up and what Brennan was naming. I do know that too, that Brennan did have a tendency to sometimes feel that if someone's just saying the truth, that's negative because the truth is like uncomfortable for him, or it's not something he wants to like focus on at the time. So like that's also a thing. So I hear both of them. I really do hear both of them. Her friend said that she wants her to have what she wants. Like she wants someone who's going to really want her. And Emily's feeling like a new level of self-love and self-worth. And at the same time, like even though she's about to go on this travel situation, her friend was like, hey, so if you want to get a one bedroom, and you need me to leave, hey, I got it. And Emily said, I'm not going to be, really doing the hookups. I'm really gonna just take some time to love on me. Like I'm not gonna jump into that. I'm not gonna. That's what I used to do. And at the same time, we still have these old methods of protection around. Even though we say what we're not gonna do, sometimes it happens. So I'm hoping that Emily would just kind of just be a watchful eye of what's happening. They did also at the after party discuss like the truth of what came out at the after party previously about Emily's makeout session, and also Brennan in his Instagram messages. And Brennan stated that they both agreed to really just like not talk about that on camera and to just keep that between them two. And at the same time, he felt like because there's so much happening and the women are coming from like a hurt place, and in their anger that they are seeing red. And I can't say that his perception of that situation, especially at the pizza party or gathering, is inaccurate. They were definitely, it was just like a woof. It was like a volcano of hurt and anger that was just like exploding all at once. And there was like so much casualties happening that night. And so I'm hoping that the ladies will be able to attend to themselves, especially Emily. Emily and Brennan haven't been in any communication with each other, and Brennan talked to the men, and he kind of gave them his perspective of and his view of these accusations. And he also did at the after party too, saying that him and Emily, they had a thing where they would just like look at each other's confessionals and laugh, and they had a conversation where he said to Emily, like, hey, like, that's not the truth. What made you say that? And she agreed. He said in that moment, she agreed to delete it. And at the same time, I'm like, maybe that's also a miscommunication that he felt like she agreed to. And from her view, she felt forced to do that. So I feel like both can be true depending on the perception of it and depending on like where she was in that relationship. Because after the honeymoon, the energy I saw Emily in was like, I just need to keep everything happy so that Brennan doesn't walk away or Brennan doesn't get upset. So she could have been concealing her feelings about how she felt about deleting the video and him not know. So that's also a thing. Last but definitely not least, we have Michael and Chloe. And so Chloe is with Emily, and she is disclosing that they consummated their marriage. And Chloe's saying that she felt accused of being inauthentic. And I'm hearing Chloe, this part of her is like, what are you trying to say? Like, it feels like Chloe, from how she's talking with Emily, like a part of her is like wanting to choose her battles. And saying like, hey, I'm not saying that this isn't something that I'm concerned about. I'm just saying that on the Richter scale of battles, I'm not going to concern myself on this, and I don't feel like that was really communicated, right? It's like, oh, this is okay, like it's not. And Emily kind of pushed like, yeah, Dr. P could be hard, she could be a lot, and also she wouldn't be putting a huge emphasis on it if it wasn't something that was a big deal, like if it wasn't something that needed to be looked at. And so she kind of encouraged Chloe to, hey, lean in, talk about it, don't run away from it. And kudos to Chloe for like being open to that. Yeah, really kudos for Chloe to being open to that, and also Emily too for saying that. Yeah, kudos to both of them. And it's, Chloe could have really been in her space of like, how dare this woman say I'm being inauthentic, and not being open to see her merit, or to see her intent of what she was saying. And having Emily, out of all people, be someone who is encouraging Chloe to do that, I'm sure carried a lot of weight. And so Michael's talking with Austin, and they're like boxing together, and he's saying he's processing his feelings on where he sees their emotional connection growing through decision day, and with their future plans and their living situations, because maybe it's a no. That's a lot, I think, for Austin to sit with. I don't know if Austin was maybe the best person, because it seemed like he was even like, wow, take it back, like, oh, it's maybe a no, man. Yeah, it's a lot to, yeah. Like it felt like he, even in this moment, really didn't have a lot to give Michael, because even he is still kind of like trying to figure out what happened between him and Becca. But Chloe came in to their shared space, and Michael was cooking, and she said she wants to discuss their session even further, and really thinking about his mom, and how his mother said that, after the first relationship ended, that she was relieved. Like, she was relieved. And so Chloe's like agreeing that Michael should continue to really protect his mom in that way until they make a decision after decision day. And so, Michael appreciated that. And I hear Chloe really make the best decision, makes the best logical decision. And at the same time, I'm wondering if Chloe has checked in with herself to see how she feels about that decision. Like, that's what I'm wondering. Like, it's not really clear if she has or not, but that's where she is. And Chloe is surprised about how well their relationship is going. And so maybe she's like, maybe we need to lean into having more conversations about living together, because maybe we're not saying all the things we need to say. And so Michael's like, yeah, let's go. And so he's like, I'm concerned about if they'll find a location that it's going to accept all their dogs. They have, or the animals. They have 5 animals. He's also concerned about making a huge commitment, buying a house, that neither of them want to do that right now. And like, Chloe is like nodding her head. She's like, and she asked Michael if he would be open and willing to explore a place that maybe could work. And Michael said, yeah, as long as it doesn't compromise with what we want in the space. So that's where they kind of leave things off. And Michael goes to talk with Brennan. And Brennan asks him a question. He's like, so, like, are you happy with her? And he said, yeah, like, I'm really happy with Chloe. And, he's thinking like, man, I would really love to continue to date. Like, if we were in a dating relationship, that'd be great. And at the same time, like, it's hard for him to decide on whether they want to stay married. And, Brennan gave him, from my humble opinion, gave him some pretty solid advice. Yes, they're in a marriage, right? So yes, they're in a marriage. And Brennan said, well, how about just lean into what you're feeling right now? Like, you would continue to date her, and look and be okay. Like, embrace the good, because if you try to look for the bad, you're going to find it. And he's right, because we're human. So if there's a part of Michael that's surveilling Chloe for bad characteristics or flaws, like, they will find them, because she is indeed a human being. And at the same time, I'm wondering what it is like about marriage and the word marriage or the label marriage or about their relationships that gives him pause. Cameron named something at the after party too. He was like, Michael is someone who's very good with their words, but when it comes to like this, he kind of gets a little miffed. And that's what I was kind of naming last review. Like this is a different Michael we're seeing. So like this part of him that's really unsure about his feelings. I wonder if he's like spending time to listen to his heart. Kind of similar to what I was naming with Orion. Like there's a part of him that's like really up here in his head. And ooh, what does he fear about dropping down to his heart to really see how he feels towards Chloe and what he needs to attend to. And so Michael and Chloe, they're house hunting to see their preferences, and Michael and Chloe see this really big house. So it was a bit expensive. And you could tell, or I could tell that it seems that Chloe really liked this house. So just kidding. It's perfect. It's the animal sanctuary. This, oh, look at this, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And it seemed like Michael had some concerns about the financial point. And also Chloe was like, well, how do you feel about reducing your shopping? He's like, you feel like that's all we're going to have to do? Maybe we should find something that's closer to our choice point, and maybe you two giving some thought to how you feel about spending this much more over what we're already spending. Because that rent price was a lot. So something for both of them to consider. After this house hunting moment, Michael and Chloe both kind of have and discuss their same concerns with the girls and the guys, and talking about how they're still like in this like, what do we do kind of indecision. Chloe's kind of feeling just the stress of it all and is concerned about if Michael says no on decision day. Michael is still trying to make sense of his feelings. And then after these events happen, Michael he wakes up Chloe and says, hey, we need to talk, but it's not anything scary. And at the same time, we need to talk about decision day. And I was like, I don't know. What just happened there? Like a part of him said one thing and then a part of him did something else. So he's not aware of what was happening, but it was like, oh no, but decision day is scary. And then he kept talking and I was like, oh, this is really indeed scary. And I don't know how fair this was to wake up Chloe to have this conversation. I don't know if maybe Chloe's always alert after just being awoken and to have a deep conversation, but it just, part of me was like wondered around the timing of it all. But it happened. And Michael stated that he stated the positive. He started out like, we get along so well together. We're aligned. We're this. We had a great time. And at the same time, he has underestimated having these emotional, deep conversations about the future. And he's feeling drained. And he's like, why am I feeling drained? What's happening? And I wonder, too, if he can maybe add on some more questions like, ooh, what part of you is feeling drained? Michael, like, which parts of you are feeling drained? Is the part of you that has been, like, actively reassuring Chloe through her anxiety that's feeling drained? Is there a part of you that has been really trying to use your words and not really say how you're, like, really feeling through all of this? Is that the one that's feeling drained? Like, which parts of you have been feeling drained throughout this marriage, to really get an understanding of why you're feeling drained? And also, to after you get that information, like, ooh, can there be a shift that happens, or is this determining that maybe this is a no decision day? But like, can there be an internal shift with Michael where Michael chooses to show up in a different way that's less draining for him? And is there something that Michael needs to do in order to do that? Like, so many questions. When he said that, I had so many questions that popped up. Like, oh, you're feeling drained. Well, let's talk about this. Because I think sometimes the assumption can be that, oh, this is too much for me. And we don't know unless we start to sit and listen and hear and really attend to what's happening internally. So Chloe asked him, well, so are you feeling like you have what it takes to be married? And he said, I'm really starting to question it. And Chloe said that, she's feeling that potentially like her a part of her that was like pushing them to move together is driving this seed of doubt. And she wasn't expecting all of this uncertainty, like uncertainty on his end and even on her end. She started to feel like getting emotional, and she stated that she just doesn't want them to give up on their relationship, doesn't want them to give up on themselves too soon. And she made a request. She made a request for Michael to reserve making a decision until decision day, and he said he can respect that request. So this is where they are. Chloe is, yeah, she's in a place where she is wanting, and like she's wanting a commitment. She's wanting a commitment with Michael. And at the same time, she's also wanting to be in a committed relationship with someone who wants her. And so that's kind of giving her a little pause around it. I do want I do want Michael, because I do feel that Michael is really in here. He's in his head, and he's got parts of him that may be overthinking, second guessing, and because he's not really saying the things, that all these worries and anxieties are like up here. Like, can we like maybe not continue to do this? Like, we need to say the things. How are we gonna not say the things? So there's like so much that he maybe isn't naming, and that's why it's so hard for him to really know how he's feeling. But that's what I'm sensing, but who knows what he's really feeling. But I feel for both of them in this moment, as this is tight, this is tough, and hoping that Michael gets some clarity. I really am hoping he gets some clarity about what he's feeling and thinking and what he needs to do on decision day. But you tell me your thoughts. Tell me your thoughts of where the rest of these couples are, how you're feeling as we approach the final decision day with Michael and Chloe. If you're still with us, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, be cool, be calm, be centered. Peace.